Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Progeny Podcast. My guest today is Ali Al-Basri, British-born Iraqi filmmaker, director and all-round content creator. Ali has spent 15 years creating content from music, recitation videos, advertising campaigns to feature-length documentaries. After graduating in graphic design and visual communication, Ali Al-Basri changed his career direction in pursuit of filmmaking, and he hasn't looked back. Salam Haji Ali, thank you for making time for the Progeny.
Pleasure, Haji. Good to be here.
I might be wrong, but is this your first ever interview, or have you done an interview?
No, you're right. Yeah, first time ever on camera rather than behind the camera.
Okay, and this is why people haven't seen you, because you're always behind the camera.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this, and I'll mention it at the beginning because a lot of the stuff that you've probably seen in documentaries in the Shia world, a lot of the best of the stuff that you've seen, including recently the Sistani documentary,
Yep.
was filmed by and directed by this man. So that's why you haven't seen him, because you've always had Ali been behind the camera, not only filming but also directing many productions, documentaries, as I said at the start of this, adverts, recitation videos, famous reciters like Mullah Ali, Sayyid Haidar Jizani, and others, and these are the ones that come in my mind, maybe others as well. You filmed their video clips, a lot of the documentaries that were aired recently on Imam Hussein TV, and a few years back Hellbeit TV were also filmed by yourself. So alhamdulillah, a lot of the content that you have seen in the Shia world, this is the man behind it. So I think now whenever you see director of photography Ali Basri, you know who Ali Basri is. Ali, were you born in this country first of all?
Yeah. I was born here.
Okay. Originally, though your parents are from Iraq.
Iraq, yep. But I was born and bred here, so I'm one of the few Iraqis kind of in my circle who was actually born here.
I would have never thought you were born here, because you're you've got the Iraqi cultural where your Arabic Iraqi is quite good, and
I mean it rubs off. I mean I grew up in outside of London.
Okay.
So London was obviously the hub for Iraqis and stuff.
Yeah.
But where I grew up, it was kind of more isolated. A smaller Iraqi community. But obviously, my parents, we were very active in terms of coming to the community events and certain programs and stuff. So we never lost that kind of contact.
Yeah, they instilled that Iraqi and the religious.
Yeah. And a lot of the guys, I knew growing up, close friends. So it's always been there. It's just, I was always I come from a town called Slough.
Okay.
So I was always known as Ali Slough because everyone was based in London.
Subhanallah, it's Basri because your parents are originally from Basra, and Slough. We need to change that surname to Ali Slough now.
I shouldn't have said that now.
Haji Ali, how you obviously got your degree in graphic design, but how did you get into filming? Was there a passion for filming?
So filming, it's the classic story of, we had a video camera at home. I was always the one who was kind of filming, and I enjoyed filming. So it started from a young age. And I just loved, I don't know what it was. It's just, I loved the whole capturing something. I loved, watching films growing up. So, I would always try and convince my siblings to we'll do skits and film little kind of shows and stuff. I had no idea how to make films. I had no idea in terms of, the technical or the kind of storytelling side, but I would just film stuff and put it all together. And as I grew up, it kind of developed. And thing is, a hobby of mine was doing magic, performing magic.
Okay.
So towards the early 2000s, I think, these websites started popping up where people would share their magic and stuff, their tricks and their little moves.
Is there a website that's got videos of you from 20 years ago doing some magic?
There's they're all unlisted now.
Oh,
yeah.
You got to make one of them public.
Yeah, no, but they're there. There was even some when I was in a dishdasha doing some of the stuff. Crazy. filmed on a webcam.
Give us the thumbs up if you want to see Hajj Ali Nadishdasha performing some Houdini magic.
Not gonna happen.
How is it not?
Not gonna happen.
If we get 1,000 thumbs ups.
Maybe if we get 1,000, maybe.
Okay, 1,000 likes. 1,000 likes, so we see some magic.
I can't see it happening. But yeah, it's kind of, that's where I really got into it, because now there was like a platform where people were uploading videos, and there was more effort being put into making things creative for people to watch. So that's when I really started getting into it and learning a bit more. And it's hard because back then there was no resource to learn.
Yeah.
You know, unless you studied it, there was no resource into learning how to make films and to put things together, you know, using Windows Movie Maker. That's how it was.
Wow.
But then going into my studies, I did graphic design after secondary school, and I got my national diploma. But I still had this passion. I wanted to do it as a career, filmmaking. So I applied to do my degree in film and broadcast. And I went for the interview, the pre-interview. And the lady, we sat down and she went through my kind of CV and everything. She asked me why I want to do this and everything. And I was like, I really have a passion for filmmaking. I love it. I'd love to do it as a career. And she looked at me and she said, take my advice, stick with graphic design. There's no money in film and TV. Stick with graphic design. It will do you a lot better. And I walked out of there like so depressed. I was like, what?
Confused.
The main kind of professor of the course is telling me not to do this. I'm like, what? It must be really bad. So that just kind of, it's just, ultimately I went on to do graphic design as a degree, to finish it as a degree. But deep down, I really wanted to continue doing filmmaking and making films. So in my last year of my graphic design degree, the final major project, we were given an open book, a blank canvas. They literally said to us, you can do whatever you want for this final major project. So I said, I'm going to make a film. So I literally, it was a 12-week project. And I got to, I think, week 10. And I just looked at my work. I hadn't done a film, but I looked at my work and I was like, I don't like this. I'm not happy with this. I'm going to make a film. So literally with 2 weeks left, I sat down with a friend, a very close friend of mine, and I pitched him the idea to make this short film. And I wanted to use his nephews as the actors. And he agreed, and they agreed, and they were up for it. And I made this short film. I literally wrote it in like a day, filmed it on like a video camera, handheld everything, and I put it together. And then I handed it in. And I went to show it to my teachers for assessment, and they were blown away. They literally watched it and they were almost speechless at the end. And I was like, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? They're not saying anything. And one of my teachers, she looked at me, she said, you know what? We get to view the film and broadcast studies final projects. We get to view it. There's like a viewing where certain teachers go and view the final major project from film and broadcast. And she said, this beats anything that any of those students had done. And like, I couldn't believe it. I was like really, really happy. I was like, I felt vindicated. Like, this is what I actually am meant to be doing. So that was kind of the start where I was like, you know what? It gave me a confidence boost, and I'm like, I'm going to go all into this.
The first time I think we met, if I'm not mistaken, was at a majlis organized by Shabab al-Sabtain in Muharram, probably 15 years ago.
2011.
Was it 2011? Okay, you remember the year. Where you were in charge of filming the majlis. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was the first time I've seen a majlis bring a cameraman from outside to film a majlis. Other mosques like maybe Hussein Rasul A'zam or maybe Imam Khoury Islamic Center or others would have built-in cameras, if I'm not mistaken. to film the majlis, where this was the first time I saw a setup where tripods and a DSLR, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
2 cameras and some lighting, and you filmed that majlis. And that year was because I was part of that majlis. I remember it was. I don't know how much of that Muharram you remember, but for me, I really felt Muharram that year because I remember it was Sheikh Muhammad Al-Hilli and Mullah Ali Fadil. How did you get into? And I think from then it opened your way to Hellbeit TV, if I'm not mistaken. But how did you get into filming that majlis? And was that your first majlis where you get employed to film?
Yeah. So that was so basically what happened was I was doing a lot of weddings and events at the time, and I had always wanted to kind of somehow help the community or try and bring my work to the community, because ultimately I was looking at the community and I could see work that was being put out, and I just felt it could do with a boost, with a production value kind of boost, and a sort of increase from that regard. And I had managed to speak with Mullah Ali Fadil in terms of working with him, and he was working somewhere at the time. He had brought me on to do some videos for them, and during kind of one of the breaks when we were filming, I heard he was on the phone with one of his friends, and they were discussing bringing a speaker over or organizing the speaker for a majlis and stuff. It was just before Muharram, maybe 1 or 2 months before. And I said to him, like, what's going on? What's happening? And he said, oh, we're doing this majlis, me and the Shabab, we're organizing this majlis. And I just thought, you know what? I used to go to majlis and stuff as a kid. I thought, maybe I could bring a high production value to a majlis. So I said to him, do you think they would be interested? So he kind of got me in touch with them and stuff. And they ultimately said, because you have to remember, it's not like now where someone goes to and says, can I film a majlis? And they'll be like, yeah, sure, why not? It was very like an odd request.
Yeah.
Because
why are you filming our majlis?
They literally had like a small camera that they were going to use to film it. So they couldn't see like what was going to happen. So I said, look, just trust me on this, please. Trust me on this, because at the same time, I didn't have anything to show them. Like, look, I've done this majlis, and they had to just kind of trust me on that. And ultimately they did. And they were a bit apprehensive at the start, because to be honest, it was something new for me as well. I had to go into this thinking, how do I approach this? How do I make it unique? How do I make it different? How do I make it maybe a bit more engaging for the audience? So the first couple of nights were kind of trial and error. I was thinking, what can I do differently? And a lot of it, obviously, lecturing is kind of straightforward. You've got a wide shot and you've got a close up. But where I saw potential was in the reciting parts and the latmiya parts, where I would get different angles and I would incorporate more of the crowd, and that sort of seemed to have, be working, and I could feel there was something there. And they were still apprehensive because, again, 2011, it's not like now where things, you can easily turn around footage, especially when you're talking about like an hour and a half lecture, maybe an hour of reciting. Computers were way slower. Footage needed to be converted before you start editing. There was all these kind of, roadblocks in my way. So what I decided to do was to make a trailer and call it the 9 Nights of Muharram. So I think by night 7 or night 6, I can't remember, I made this trailer and I sent it to them, and they were gobsmacked, and they were like, what is this? This looks like a movie. How have you done this? And that's, again, I felt like, this is something that's going to work. And it was shared, and there was great feedback. And yeah, I was just proud that I could bring that level of production to the community.
11 years later, it's 2011. So you done also a short clip, subhanAllah. Now you mentioned this short clip. Yeah. I'm sure you've seen it. The Al-Akbar Foundation also asked you to not necessarily film their whole majalis, but to film a 3 to 5 minute promo which Imam Hussein TV had requested, if I'm not mistaken. And that was also, again, like watching a movie. And if I were to mention, again, not to go chronologically, but also the clip which you made back in 2018? 17, which was the Muharram, a tribute to Imam Hussein. 2017, where I'm sure a lot of people, maybe we can try and add clips of this during the podcast. A lot of people have seen this, where you do, you know, from the first day of Ashura with the change of the flag to, you know, setting up of the Mawakib, all the way up until capturing the Azza known as Azza Atwarij, where people run towards the shrine, and the slow motion of the feet and the people running and their facial expression. I've seen it probably I don't know how many times, hundreds if not thousands of times, and every time I see it, it gives me goosebumps. And I remember that was the piece that we would show to anyone coming to visit Hellbeit TV at the time, to show a piece of work that we did. We'd show them that, and they'd all be like literally speechless after seeing that clip. Sadly, that clip is no longer on YouTube.
I think it is. Other people have uploaded.
Okay,
I think it's
other people have. Yeah, but sadly that page no longer exists for whatever particular reason.
It almost reached 1 million views. But
yeah, haramat. And there's so much views on other videos as well. But that clip, again, a lot of people might have seen it not knowing, and a lot of reciters used it without permission. A lot of latmiyat in the Urdu and as well as the Arabic world, because I see it a lot now, more and more. And I'm like, wait, that's Basri's clip. Used, so I'm sure people have seen that you also worked on that. And, you know, those powerful clips, again, I want to ask you about that. How do you sit down and do a clip like that? I mean, okay, the filming, I'm guessing, takes... A lot of people don't know. How many hours of footage did you have for that 3-minute clip? We're talking here, the tribute.
It was a lot.
It was like literally 10 days of filming or something.
No, the thing is, I wished it was 10 days. I had planned that out before we actually went. But because of certain permissions, we couldn't get badges on certain days. So I missed a lot of, like, the middle part of that. I'm not really overly happy with, because we couldn't get certain shots which I wanted to include due to no filming permissions being granted. So there was like a few days where no filming could take place. But, you know, I just realized something. I forgot a really important part of the story, going back to Shabab's the plane.
Okay.
Is that took place, I think, in November of 2011. In April of 2011, it was my first visit to Iraq. So it was the first time me going, and first time doing ziyarah and everything. And I distinctly remember when I visited the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, I prayed that I distinctly remember this prayer, that please God, let me serve Imam Hussein through my work somehow. And then, you know, the majlis thing ended up happening in November. So I'd forgotten that, but you mentioned Imam Hussein stuff. I started to remember, because it kind of gives me goosebumps when I remember because the opportunities opened up after that trip to Iraq. I don't think there's any coincidence there, and that played a part in me in terms of doing videos relating to Imam Hussein. I always remember that because it's something deep inside me where I feel like I have to have a responsibility to make things really good and to put all my effort into it. So now leading up to this tribute video, especially, it's one of my proudest pieces of work because I really I feel like it's my personal tribute in a way to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Thing is, when I approach a project, I want it to be something unique and original. So whenever I start something, I always approach it from the mindset of, I want people to look at this and instantly know, I haven't seen this before. because anything to do with Muharram or Arba'een, you can watch it, but you don't necessarily know what year it's from. Like, you could watch a clip now and I could say to you, this is from last year. Or I could say to you, this is from 10 years ago, and you wouldn't know, because it's very similar footage of very similar stuff. So I always look at projects from that regard. How can I make this unique, stand out, where people watch it and be like, I haven't seen this before. I've definitely not seen this before. So I then said, look, why don't we make a video, like a highlight of all the 10 days? I put myself in the deep end. It's not easy. I said, start filming on day 1, end with the Hazrat Warij, the run, and then make a compilation and release it on the 10th or 11th. But I remember you were in the room at the time, and I came in, I said, look, I want to film the run, the Hazrat Warij. I want to film it. I want to be in the run. I don't even remember this. And you kind of looked at me like, are you mad?
Are you crazy?
You're going to go in the run and film. And Haji Amir has said that his dad was, there was almost a stampede one year.
Yeah.
He was like,
take it easy
on the run. And I was determined. I was like, I have to. I had never seen any footage in the actual run before. It had always been from the sidelines. I had never seen someone in the run actually filming it. So again,
how was that as an experience?
Oh wow!
How many times did you fear for your life?
My God, do you know what it is? If anyone hasn't experienced 10th of Muharram in Karbala, I really encourage you to go, because it's a completely different thing. The feeling is unbelievable. And on the day, we were filming and stuff, and it was really, really hot. Boy, I think it was 45 degrees.
Wow.
And, it takes place in the morning until like mid-afternoon. So the sun is beating down on you, really, really hot. And I was filming and everything, and then the run began. And I went mad. I literally, and Nuri Sardar was there as well, and he can attest to this. I lost it. I literally lost it, and I realized I've got only a small window of opportunity here. I grabbed the camera and I literally went down into the run. I literally joined and I started taking my shots. So I knew which shots I needed, and I just started filming. It was really
surreal experience.
Surreal, yeah. It did feel a bit risky, because you got these thousands of people running.
But at the time, you didn't think of the risk. I'm guessing, because you wouldn't go in there.
Obviously, like, to a degree, I was taking precautions. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I just started filming all the shots I needed, and alhamdulillah, it worked out and it came out good.
How important is one? I ask this question because you mentioned that story in April before the November and Muharram about you asking Allah to allow you to serve Imam Hussein in the field that you do.
Yeah.
And I always, when I mention anything to do with service and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asking Allah, there's a really nice line in Dua Kumail where you say, oh Allah, make sure both my day and my night is filled bikhidmatik, in your service. And I always used to think, how can your day and your night be filled in the service of Allah? Obviously, if you're a good Muslim and that could be but I said, how can you actually be, you're not in a bank, or you're not as a lawyer, or you're not a doctor. Obviously, all these, of course, are service to Allah. But I'm saying something more than that. And then when I was working in Hellbeit TV and what I'm doing now, I thought, wow, okay, this is what I asked Allah, and sort of. So with you, when you asked, how important is one's intention, and how important is one's niyyah when you go into a job like this? Do you sometimes feel there's like things happen for you, things work out for you because of your intention, and sometimes maybe not that it's happened, but sometimes maybe if your intention is not on the right, you notice that it's not happening. Do you see that in your 10, 15 years? Intention
is everything. It's literally everything about it. Just from my experience, I know when I have the right intention, when my mind is right, and I'm like, you have to know why you're doing it. And I always, when I start a project, I know I have to kind of tell myself, this is the intention behind it. It's not about you getting your name out there, or getting good feedback or praise. It's about what is the message, what is the underlining message you want to portray or to give out there to the world. So intention has to be all about the intention, because if it's not, then it's not sincere, and if it's not sincere, it's not going to succeed.
Limitations. I'm gonna stick one on limitations with this one. Music is a limitation within our field. I'm of the opinion that music makes a big difference to any production.
Yeah.
You know, the film awards, BAFTAs and all these Oscars, there's a special category when it comes to music. Recently, I think two days ago, someone really famous in the music world died, and they were talking about his music, and they played one of his pieces. And I don't know which movie it was from, but I thought this guy made, music is quite big within, whether it's Star Wars or Batman, or I don't know, all these, or they have this specific, and music plays a big role. When it's a sad scene, the music. When it's a horror film, the music. Yet we are limited. And again, I'm asking you as someone that's a director as well as a producer, and especially with small clips, music is more important than maybe a documentary where you can get away with playing humming. But with these, does music limit you? And what's your sort of take on that?
So music is a big deal. It's very important. It's almost 50%. It is 50% of the overall video. So, that's audio in general is sometimes more important than video anyway. So you might have a really low quality video, but if there's good audio and there's music to it, it can make you cry.
A lot of people actually say, for example, that our podcast, the audio is quite good, and that's why they enjoy it, because it's there's crisp. As well as obviously the video. I'm not taking but they enjoy that. Otherwise, if it was maybe a bad podcast where you hear crackling and then the noise isn't that clear, then obviously they wouldn't enjoy it as much. So you're right, audio is 50%.
Very, very important. And when it comes to music and conveying emotion, it's 10 times more important. I put it this way: when I make a clip, music, I have to have the music first.
Wow.
So if you're looking at the tribute video, for example, I spent hours and hours finding that particular song and that track, because it has to resonate. For me, it's just how some people might not do it this way, but I have to listen to a track and it has to resonate with me, and it has to evoke some kind of emotion within me for me to say, you know what, this is the one.
I've heard the best reciters, Latmiya reciters, usually pick the tor, the lahan, the tune, before they pick the words.
Yeah.
And usually someone like Basim, from what I've heard again, most of the times he'll pick the tune, and then he'll send the tune to the poet, and then tell him write on this tune using this tune. So that's how important
And then he's gonna when he recites that now, he's more emotional. He's more committed to it as well.
Yeah.
So it plays a big part. But obviously within our communities, within our kind of religion in general, there is a taboo and a stigma around music and its use, certain types of music. It is subjective, but also it's down to what kind of who you follow as well.
Yeah,
the marja, in terms of what's allowed and what's not. So I always try and kind of play within that, the safety zone of what is considered allowed, and that kind of area is quite broad. So there's a lot of range there to play with. But yeah, I have to say, like, music is really, really important in all types of video and content and filmmaking.
You started to work on feature-length documentaries with the Hellbeit TV. We had a previous guest a few episodes back by the name of Said Hassanein, who I know you know, and he mentioned yourself with.
Great guy.
That was sort of, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was sort of the first documentary that took the content on Hellbeit TV to a next level. Like you might correct me if I'm wrong. There was obviously previous documentaries being done, but it was mostly maybe, you know, someone behind, you know, talking to a guest, or just a talking person, and then a few cutaways of Karbala, or so on and so forth. This was the first sort of following someone, and quite a big production. I say big, it was only you and Amir, but you guys worked really hard on that. That how was that for you? You know, now doing documentaries where it's not your usual studio work.
So approaching anything like, that's why I've got story written up there, because I approach everything from the aspect of storytelling. Yeah. How do you tell a story? And that kind of is across all my work. How do you tell a story? So I feel like I have that ability to tell a story. So Amir had brought me into his office, and he had told me about this guy Hassanin and his story. He had lost 2 children, and he started running marathons. And thing is, when we were at the channel, you know how hard, as a producer, you know how hard it is to find a good story and a good kind of, this was something unique, which I couldn't believe was something within our community. And I was like, wow, that is an amazing story.
That'll make a good documentary.
That'll make, obviously, you know, we were going to make the documentary, but this has to be done right. And Amir was already up for it. He was like, yes, we have to do this properly and everything. And I literally put my all into that documentary, with, you know, great support from Haji Amir. He'd done a lot of the producing and organizing and everything involved. And again, he trusted me a lot on that project, because I remember you know how it was with the channel. We were very limited with resources, and one of those limitations was time. So
it's always a limitation.
It's always a limitation. So we had planned all the shooting in one day.
That wasn't going to happen.
And there was also a marathon filming, but the main bulk of the filming was meant to be in one day. So we had gone out there, and we're filming, literally from morning to night. We're filming non-stop, and we've done the interview with him and everything. And the thing is, he lives in East London, so which is quite far. So on the car ride back, I told Amir I wasn't 100% happy with it. I was like, it's not going to do it justice.
It needs to be more.
We need to put more into this. Like, you know, his interview was kind of. The thing is, we had just, for me especially, I had just met him, so he was kind of, and he had told me after, he said, I didn't know if he even liked me on the day, because the way I was approaching it was, I was trying to find any tiny bits of story which we could develop and stuff. So I was analyzing everything on the day. I was really deep into it. So we went back, and Amir agreed. He was like, okay, look, let's go all out. Make a plan and we'll execute. So I went back, and I kind of sat down and said, how can we tell this story in a unique way? What else do we need? What are the shots? What are the moments? And we ended up filming, I think it was four full days, maybe 4 days in total. It wasn't that much filming, by the way. It was like because I had to plan it in a way where we had to film.
Yeah, what you wanted.
What we wanted. So that's what happened. The only part I didn't film was the marathon, because I was in Iraq with you. We were filming in Iraq in 2014. So I missed the marathon filming for that. But everything else I filmed. And then it came down to editing that. And it was really emotional editing that story. If anyone's seen it, you'll know. But editing that, and the thing is, there was a lot I couldn't include. Like you had him on, you know how deep his story is.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of the story I couldn't include, but I got it down to the main parts. And yeah, I would cry while watching it. It was really, really deep.
Not the first or last time.
And the thing is, Amir came up with the idea of having a screening for the community, for his friends and family, to do like a screening. And I think it was to take place on the Saturday, and we had wrapped everything on the Tuesday. So I had from like Tuesday to Saturday to finish the whole thing. So on the Friday night, I was up all night editing. Like literally, I had not slept a wink. But I managed to get it done. It ended up being an hour and 40 minutes, I think. Crazy long. And we showed it at the screening. It got really good feedback. People were crying in the audience, and yeah, it was a great success. And going back to music, it was one of the first times where we really used music in the channel. I remember a lot of the feedback at the time was, the music was really emotional, and you couldn't make that without music. That particular documentary, it needed that to invoke that kind of emotion. But yeah, the feedback was great. It was an amazing time making that documentary. It'll stay with me for the rest of my life.
You've done a lot of documentaries, what's any other documentaries that you remember? I'm sure each one has a special place for you. But which other ones would you say that really meant something for you? I'm guessing the Iraq filming, obviously.
Yeah.
The Ashura meant something.
100%.
There was Arba'in that you also went to.
Yeah, I went to Arba'in.
There was one trip that we went to film some documentaries.
Yeah, one.
I
think, yeah.
With the Hausa one, I remember. Which one? Each one obviously, I'm guessing means something, and I'm sure you've done some over here. The ISIS one that you did with Mujtaba and others. Does each documentary mean something to you, or how when you look back at your time?
Yeah,
now?
each one, especially the international ones, because how it is when you travel, things happen and nothing goes to plan, and
that's the fun part.
That's the fun part, but also the stressful part, and sometimes the amazing part, because things happen which you don't know are going to happen, which change the project entirely. The one that kind of stays with me is maybe the French revert community
I was speaking to someone about that yesterday.
Really? Yeah.
Le Mounier,
yeah. It was surreal. It was a really, really surreal experience from beginning to end. Again, Haji Amir, we went together to film that. And it's just like, you feel like you're in the Twilight Zone, because you've got this really small community, isolated in the middle of nowhere. They don't look like Muslims, but they are Muslims.
Rural area of France.
Yeah, in France, sorry. And they're just this really, really lovely small community who are Shia Muslims. And they're in the middle of nowhere. Like their kind of mosque, if you want to call it, is in the middle of a field. And to get there to their mosque is funny. We had to park kind of, I think it was far, like maybe a couple of miles out from their mosque.
And walk
because it was muddy. So the tires, when we were going, the tires wouldn't be able to get through the mud. So we literally stopped.
In mud.
I put carrier bags over my shoes, and we walked. Literally, the guys with us were helping us. They kind of carried bottles of water, and it was pitch black. We were using like phone lights, I think, to walk. And we get to near the mosque. And it's pitch black. Imagine it's pitch black. And then we kind of pan the light over, and there's a cow right in front of us. so that's how it was, like walking amongst cows, like to get to the location. And it was kind of bizarre. But again, looking back, it almost feels like a dream, because just how surreal it was.
A nice story.
An amazing story, yeah. But yeah, that's something that definitely stays with me, that documentary.
You were also part of filming for one of my favorite shows, Reborn.
Yeah.
How was, a lot of people still speak about Reborn to me.
Yeah.
Each story was unique. Do any of the stories stick with you? Or do you remember any unique story that you thought? Again, I'm putting you on the spot because Reborn, we did so many. We lost.
Reborn,
we drive to Bradford once.
We drove to Birmingham.
Birmingham.
Yeah.
No, the Bradford family. Was it
Preston.
Preston.
Yeah,
family.
Preston was kind of unique. Yeah.
Subhanallah.
That was. That was long.
Sayyids can't marry non-Sayyids. 1 hour argument.
That was very interesting. I think that was my first.
Oh, was it?
Reboard, yeah.
You went
deep end. Yeah. Oh my god! But Reborn one. Oh god, I have to think.
Pick one.
There's so many. The thing is, when you're filming it, the thing about Reborn was, I'm usually monitoring the camera and the sound and making sure everything. With Reborn, I was really like
and the story
into the story, like hearing what they're saying, and sometimes your mouth would be like, jaw would be open, thinking, "Wow, how?" Because it's sometimes incomprehensible to think they found Islam, by themselves in their certain circumstances. But to pick one, wow, that's so many. I have to think about that.
I'll come back to that one. There's a certain buzz when you create your content or your documentary or your show, especially I think when you get people's feedback. So when people maybe randomly see you and tell you, I saw this clip and I thought, wow. Or our gala dinners. I remember there was a really buzzing effect that we'd have after the gala dinners. Especially I remember the one in Hilton near the airport.
Yeah.
The Heathrow one. That was
a really good one.
That was a really good one. I mean, each one was unique in its way. But when people see your content and you feel like, alhamdulillah, you get happy that people are enjoying. Did you also receive any negative feedback or criticism or attacks on a certain production that maybe got you to feel down a bit because you've spent a lot of time and effort into that? Did you feel any negativity around the work that you did? And how would you deal with that?
Luckily, I haven't had much negative feedback. And that comes down to, again, knowing what is required of me and executing to that. But I think any negativity has always been, especially in religious fields, around music. Why are you using this music? This sounds like music. Why are you using this? That's the only thing I can really point to as a negative kind of feedback I would receive is, this is very musical, this sounds music, that's the kind of negative feedback I can think of.
And you joined Hellbeit TV in what year?
2012,
and then from I think 2014, again I had this podcast with Amir a few episodes back, the level of production started to increase, and by 2017 and 18 there was 25 if not 30 documentaries during the holy month of Ramadan, a good 10 during the month of Muharram, which is, you're talking now 40 documentaries a year, which I'm guessing you're involved in at least half, if not the majority of them. Maybe out of the 40, maybe 30, I would say you're involved in minimum a year. And then 2019, by the end of it, there's something that not a lot of people know about. Only those that were involved in Hellbeit TV know about. Amir leaves the channel, and the channel is financially in deep trouble by the end of 2019. That year was a difficult year. The morale at the channel was quite low. The atmosphere, the environment was hard, and you resign early 2020. We're literally talking the second month into 2020, before the outbreak,
before the pandemic,
of COVID-19. You resign. Why?
So, Hellbeit TV. The thing is, Hellbeit TV is always going to be a big part of my life, no matter what. I was there for 7 years. And I remember, thing is, when I joined, when you joined even maybe, we kind of looked at it like in today's kind of terms, if you want to say, as a startup. It kind of always had that feeling of, it had just, it had potential. thing is, it was always a struggle at the channel. You know, we can get to when I resigned, but leading up to that, it was always a struggle. Like, I don't think people realize, like, my role, which was director of photography, was to kind of, you know, bring that production value. And sometimes production value needs money. There's no way around it. So, I mean, you know this, I would invest a lot of my own money into the channel, in my equipment, and just to raise that kind of standard of production. So I felt like I gave...
So you'd buy your own lenses, your own lights.
So I would save up and I would pour my own money back into the channel. Because there was a lot of times where... And it's hard to work in that environment where you want to be creative, you want to be, you know, you want to do your best, but then you hear, oh, if we don't get this next check, the channel might close down. Working under that kind of environment and knowing you have bills to pay, knowing you have a family to support, it's not easy, and it doesn't. It takes its toll. It's like, you know, emotionally,
mentally,
even physically, it can take its toll. But yeah, it was always a struggle, and then that was kind of the culmination of that struggle when you know, we kind of ran into that last year where I was there, where there was, you know, financial difficulties, and so I ultimately just made the decision to leave. Which was not easy, you know, because there is that thing called the sunk cost fallacy. I don't know if you know it, where you've put so much effort and time into something, it's hard to let go because you're determined to carry on and to, you know, but ultimately there's always, you know, time for change, and I felt that was the right time to leave.
You had good times there.
Amazing times.
As you mentioned, it's going to always be part of your life. It was a period that was difficult for the channel. But I think we throughout the years that we were there, there's always that peak, and then there's
ups and downs.
The ups and downs, and I think when Amir left, it had an impact on the way things run at the channel. I think even till the last year or the last few weeks, we were still producing, I think, some decent content. Even after I've left, and after you left, because I left the month after yourself. Even then, the channel has, I feel, that the last couple of seasons, Ramadan and Shahr Ramadan and Shahr Muharram, have continued in that trend to produce content, inshallah, that's useful to the community. It's not the same unit that was there maybe 10 years back or 5 years back, but alhamdulillah, I think there's still stuff happening, and I always say that we must try and support all our organizations in serving the message. So that's the main thing. So, and alhamdulillah, I think we did our bit at the time, and then we moved on. But that wasn't the end for mine and your relationship working together, because I opened new doors. And alhamdulillah, one project that I also want to mention is your production skills, where then you became a freelancer and started doing work for different organizations, as well as personalities. And we continued to work with clips for Sayyid Ammar Nakhshawani, and then a documentary which was about Ayatollah Sistani. We've done, subhanallah, other stuff, me and you, about the Marji'iyya together as well, back in the Hellbeit TV days. But this was now more on the ground, on the actual personality of Sayyid Sistani, in which you done the interviews that Sayyid Ammar filmed, and you were the main editor of the documentary and the clips. How was that working with Sayyid Ammar? Because there were days where you'd set up, I'd be there, and then I'd say, Haji Ali, see you later. And I know, and again, I feel that I haven't said this before, you and Sayyid Ammar have very similar ways when it comes to work. In the fact that he always wants to produce the best content, lectures. And here we have someone who wants to produce visually the best show or TV or documentary, whatever it is. So now we've put you together and we have something like the Sistani documentary, as well as the shorter clips. And I remember when we worked with Sayyid Ammar, something unique about Sayyid Ammar, and we've literally, especially you've interviewed every English speaker there is. From the Sada Qazwiniya, the Mudarrisiyya, you know, every English speaker that's out there, Sheikh Muhammad, Sheikh Azhar, you know, I don't want to miss out anyone, but all the names you've interviewed or they've been part of a documentary or you've done a show with. Sayyid Ammar is very unique with his style, because he, you know, we've done these clips and Sayyid Ammar's not the type that used a teleprompter. And that was unique, and he's not the type that would get us to redo the clips more than once, and he'd be flown. How was that experience doing those clips? How difficult or easy? He's going to be watching this. Be careful.
No, I mean, Sayyid Ammar he's a seasoned professional in his field. He's dedicated his life to it. So working with him was, you know, like watching a master at work. It's kind of amazing because he has it all in his head, and very little preparation. So between takes, he would just take a minute to kind of gather his thoughts, and then he'd go, and it would all come out in one go, like no teleprompter. Even like he would make a small mistake, and I would say, no, you can just start from where you left off. He'll be like, no, I'm doing the whole thing again. You know, which is actually, I couldn't say anything because I'm kind of like that as well in terms of being a perfectionist.
That's why I said there's that similar thing.
It's kind of, but no, like I said, he's a professional. He's amazing at what he does, and I'm just, you know, I'm proud to be able to work with him.
Is there a project that you've thought about, or a documentary or a feature film, or that you wanted to do, or any type of project but you just haven't had the opportunity?
Well,
something's limited you.
The thing is, there's a lot of things I'd like to do. I have, like, in terms of narrative filmmaking, it's ultimately my main passion in making films. It's not easy to make films by yourself. Again, it needs funding, it needs investment, it needs time more than anything. So there are certain things I would like to do. It's just time sometimes is a limiting factor. But yeah, there are projects I have, you know, in the works, if you want to call, which inshallah I'm hoping I'll be able to achieve in the coming years. Some of them religious, some of them non-religious. So maybe watch this space, I don't know.
If we go back in time, would you do it all over again?
Oh, 100%.
Every part of it? The ups and the downs?
Everything, because I'm a big believer in your experience makes you who you are, and that God wouldn't test you with something unless he feels you could handle it. And I like the Steve Jobs quote of, you can never connect the dots of your life looking forward. You can connect them looking backwards. So everything in my life that led up to where I am now has happened for a reason, I feel, and has got me to where I am today.
There's a lot of people maybe in our community that are interested in getting into the media world, maybe especially trying to serve within their own communities, and they might have a skill like yourself, maybe of setting up a camera or editing or into graphic design, but they don't know maybe the avenue, and they're scared at the same time, maybe listening to some of my podcasts, where sometimes you're talking about the downs and you're talking about the pay and you're talking about not being maybe sometimes appreciated, and you know they'll take certain things and they'll say, oh, I'm going to avoid this. What would you say to those people that maybe are thinking about this particular field, especially within our community?
So it wasn't easy for me like in our community, anything you want to go into which isn't being a doctor, a lawyer, pharmacist, that kind of stuff is always
a thumbs up.
Yeah, it's like it's frowned upon. It's like, what, you want to do what? So you have to have the passion ultimately. If you really have the passion, you can go for it. Like I grew up, my dad was a doctor, so I always had that pressure of, your dad's a doctor, you have to be a doctor. It's double. So I always had that kind of following me. And I even remember once a friend of my dad's rang the house, and I answered the phone, and he said, hi, Ali, how's it going? Is your dad home? I said, no, he's out at the moment. So he said, oh, how are you? What are you up to nowadays? What are you doing? And I said, I'm studying graphic design. And he said to me, what? You're a silly boy. You're stupid.
What?
Honestly, I'm sitting there, and he goes to me, you're stupid. Your dad's a doctor. You're studying graphic design? Yeah, that's a stupid thing. Like he like went raw. He didn't care. He just said that straight to my face. And I was like, okay, uncle, nice speaking with you. Bye. It's like, that's the kind of stuff I had to deal with, because this is 20 years ago now. Back then, especially, there was like, what is this graphic design? What is filmmaking? It's not like now where it's prevalent and it's in the public eye and it's more accessible to everyone. So if anything now, it's much easier and more acceptable maybe. So if you have the passion, especially with filmmaking, you need to be filming all the time. You can't just say, oh, I have the passion and, oh, this person's stopping me, that person. Pick up a camera and film. You have the passion, you'll get there. But ultimately, anything you're passionate about, you'll become successful with. So yeah, if you're into it, just go for it.
You know, being a son of a doctor, how important was the support from your parents with regards to the field that you're taking? You know, again, there might be that stigma that an Iraqi parent would want his son to be a doctor, especially if he's a doctor, then he's going to... Was your dad pushing you towards that field, or was he more supportive in what you wanted to do you think?
So my dad, he's very good at what he does. He's also an artist.
Wow.
So he's really good at art. He does calligraphy. So part of him understood, because he realized I had taken that from him, that kind of interest in art, design. I had that kind of skill. So he was supportive in that regard. But like I said, 20 years ago, it was kind of a question mark. It was like, is this successful? Is this going to be good? So ultimately, he saw I was passionate in what I was doing. So no, he supported me with that. But I think deep down, no matter what, every parent, Iraqi parent, has that kind of wish that their son becomes, doctor or whatever. But no, he was very supportive in what I do, and now he sees what I do with the community, and it's kind of it paid off, I think. But the thing is, you have to be persistent, and you have to prove that in a way to your parents if you want to pursue a path that is kind of not what is expected. You have to kind of convince them, and kind of it works two ways.
Well, I'm sure you've made him proud, and you've made a lot of people proud around the Shia world, because obviously they've seen all these different video clips and these different documentaries, and it's impacted them. That's something maybe we didn't speak about, the impact of certain productions, of a certain reborn story, a certain clip from Karbala, a certain story from one of the documentaries. It had an impact of people. It changed people's lives, and I think that's quite important.
No, it's 100% important, because especially like me, if I'm not a speaker like you're a speaker, so you might be able to make people cry when you're giving a lecture, but I don't have that ability. I'm not a public speaker, but I might be able to make people shed a tear through watching one of my films. So it's how you use your skill or your talent or your career or whatever field you work in to convey the same message.
On that note, Hajj Ali, this was your story. Want to wish you the best in all your upcoming projects.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving us the honor of
Pleasure.
doing the first ever interview.
Pleasure is all mine.
And I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you the tawfiq and the success in continuing to do what you do. And inshallah we can work together on projects, inshallah, to serve Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam together.
Inshallah, pleasure being here, Haji. Inshallah, I'll be seeing you very soon.